Hey, what's up, Centerpoint? Every month we try to do one of these return on investment video. Hopefully you've heard it by now. Every month I want to remind you that when we give, when we invest, specifically financially, there's always a return on that, and it's way bigger than us. And I mean, I've been saying this so much the last couple of months, but I'm so excited about what you're doing and what you are funding. Just over this last month, we saw so many cool things. We did this thing called Wacky Weekends in CC Kids. And one of my favorite stories was a parent who did not want to go to church one of the weekend, I forget which weekend it was, and her kids basically like made her. It's like Superhero Sunday or whatever it was, and they had to come to church, and they did an incredible job that whole month. We had some of our largest kids attendances in June, which was crazy, and kids had such an incredible time. And I know it just looks like a bunch of foam and crazy games, but there was so much investment in the lives of kids, so many new kids, and you helped fund that. We have about 35 students, middle school, high school, that are about to head to camp, which is just a huge step for us. We haven't done this in a long time, and we're believing this is gonna be a massive week. Thank you for your part in that. And we're just beginning to see God just do some really cool stuff as we know things have normalized a little bit culturally. We're seeing growth trends begin to increase. One little example I brought is how many new guests are plugging in, finding a home at Centerpoint here every week. Like, this is my stack of cards I wrote, right? These are just that we have. This doesn't represent every guest that's attending, but just to say thank you for being here. We hope you find a home here. We hope this really is the safest place in the world, no matter what you're struggling with. And so you're doing an incredible job to invest and invite. And we're seeing so much happen in terms of life change. Like, just a couple of stories real quick, and then I want to introduce the guy to my left here, Jonathan, who's just awkwardly waiting.
That's great.
But this last week, I did a message part 2 of the series, and I talked a little bit about trauma, religious trauma in the middle of that. I met a woman right after that who said she had met me 2 years ago, and she's like, at the time I was deep in alcoholism, and she also talked about the point in the message where I talked about just healing and do you want to heal? And she said 2 years later, I've healed spiritually. There's some religious trauma that I've recovered from. I'm a year and a half sober. Financially, we're free for the first time. My marriage was hanging on by a thread. It's healthier than ever. She's lost a bunch of weight, so even physically gotten healthy. And just thanked me and our church for what we're doing. And those are the stories you don't get to hear all the time. You're helping fund that. We saw so many this last week that we also saw in the series right after Easter make professions of faith in Jesus. You celebrated our baptisms a couple weeks ago. I mean, there's just nothing better than that, watching a visual kind of demonstration of what God is doing. And one other story I was gonna tell you is another friend that I met right after church, or saw again right after church, and was talking about all of their trauma coming in about, I think, 2 years ago as well. And they had been literally pushed out of another church, rejected from that church, couldn't serve. And they came here very timid, very afraid to come to church. And we opened our arms to them, and they began to serve in a ministry. And I won't give you all the specifics, but God began to do like an incredible work in their life, and transformation began to happen. I think because we didn't focus so much on their behavioral modification, but just leading them in and trying to connect them with Jesus. And that's what happens, because it works. Jesus does his thing. And now Sunday they were introducing me to their friend who now they invited to come to church, which, like, if you carry baggage with the church, that's a big deal when you get to the point where you start inviting friends. So all that to say, I could go on and on. Something really special is happening. We're reaching people nobody else is reaching in our city. And we are seeing multiculturally, multi-ethnically, multi-generationally, with the focus on the next generation, we're seeing growth happen, which is a huge part of our focus. And I think that we're poised with what we're seeing this summer for a really, really special season ahead of us in the life of our church. And so I just want to thank you. And the reason I've got this guy to my left here, this is Jonathan Shepard. And I want to introduce him to you in just a second. But one of the things that, as we kind of emerge from the fog of these last 2 years, that we're really focused on is not just to fill buildings back up and see growth. All of that's great, that should happen. Generally healthy things grow, and we want to reach our community. But we also want to see people have easy incremental steps to grow in a relationship with Jesus if they desire to do that. And we want to kind of be able to meet people wherever they are, whether they're ready to go really, really like headlong into the deep end of the pool, or they're just starting in starting point. And so Jonathan Shepard is coming on as a new hire as our associate pastor of adult engagement. Did I get that right?
You got it right.
Okay, so it's like the 5th time this week, and I get nervous every time I say it. But we've been praying about this position for a long time. And we I was joking with Jonathan, ran him through a gauntlet of interviews and all of that. And I'll let him give a little bit of his background in a second, but extremely qualified and fits the culture of our church, understands our vision, and those two sometimes are really hard to mirror because or to merge together, because we know what we're doing is really different and really unique. But our goal is to not just reach people, help them grow in their faith, disciple them. And so a lot of times this is a part of your giving that you don't always recognize. It allows us to do this, to hire Jonathan. The first time we've hired specifically for a position like this, that I think is going to be a massive step in the growth in the life of our church. And so I just wanted to say personally, he hasn't been introduced to our church, anything like that. I wanted to come to you first and say, thank you for allowing us to do this and for giving the way that you give. So just real quick, Jonathan, just give real fast bio of you, your family, your background a little bit, and then just kind of what you're excited about in this new role and joining this team.
Yeah, no, huge role. No pressure there. Yeah, I'm excited. This is my second day when we're recording this.
Yeah.
So I've just been able to, start to see some of the behind the scenes of what's going on and having conversations through the interview process. And I'll just start with what I'm most excited about, which is just all the things that you just shared, those stories, the fact that people are finding life in Jesus and finding community and finding belonging and acceptance and a place that they can be themselves here at Centerpoint and find a place to grow. So I'm just excited to be a part of that. My name's John, he's already said that, but I grew up in Lakeland, so not very far from here, and spent the last half decade or so in the Midwest. But I grew up here. I love this area. My family's all here. My wife is named Kelly, and we have a 3-year-old daughter named Poppy. Kelly's also from Lakeland, so that's where we met, and I dragged them halfway across the country, so my bad on that. I have a master's from Bethel Seminary in theological studies. I'm working on a PhD right now at Liberty University. So I love the Bible. I am big on biblical studies and theology, but what I really love is people, and I love to take stuff that is way more complicated than needs to be and way more just in the weeds than anyone should have to deal with, and just bringing it down and helping people discover life and helping simplify things and helping meet people wherever they are on their journey and just kind of take, hey, what's your next step? Where do you want to go? How can I help? How can I assist? So,
and I just say, whether you know it or not, I think Jonathan's leadership is going to have a huge impact on you, probably your family, and we have an incredible team here, but Jonathan is just a huge part of where we're going. So excited to have you, man.
Yeah,
and I just want to say to you, where your treasure is, your heart is, and those of you who are giving financially, your heart just gravitates to that place. And so thank you. We're seeing more and more givers step up every month. We know economy's crazy, all this stuff is crazy. Those of you who are systematic percentage priority givers, meaning you just give, my family and many others, week in, week out, it creates a generosity stream to plan for the future, to vision cast, to keep up with what God's doing. And you get to be a part of every one of those stories of life change, the stories that are going to be influenced by Jonathan, others on our team. So again, I just want to say thank you. Hopefully you watched all the way to the end of this. You're going to hear a lot more from this guy, but I just wanted to say thank you so much for what you're doing. Keep it up. This is an important season, and we need you more than ever before. So thanks for your generosity.
Yeah, thank you.
Love you guys.